Hello everyone, it's Marie and welcome to another video. So in this video I'm telling you how I saved $15,000 of spare income while I was living and working in New Zealand for the year. So let's go. Okay, so many people tell me all the time that it's difficult to save money in New Zealand. They say you can't make money very well because the wages are low and the living expenses are high, and so many backpackers that go there just say they can't make money and they can't save. And that wasn't the case for me at all. I made about $36,000 in the year I was there. That wasn't working full time the whole time at all. I would also say I lived a pretty good standard of life there. I ate out a lot for meals and I did go on a lot of road trips and adventures, like doing great walks and hiking and day trips and stuff. So yeah, I actually had a pretty good experience while I was living and working there, and I found personally I had a great standard of life and I saved good money and I worked good jobs. So I'm just going to tell you kind of how I did that. So first of all, I think it comes down to having a solid job for 6 months straight. So I lived in Christchurch. It's not the prettiest city in New Zealand, but it is a cheap city and there is a lot of work there because there was an earthquake a few years ago. The city's still being rebuilt and there's a lot of general labouring work around there. General labouring work's good because usually the pay is at least $20 an hour and you can get long hours, like 50, 60, 70 hours per week, and it's a good way to just go there, save up loads of money, live cheap because Christchurch isn't an expensive place to live, and save a lot of money to keep on travelling. I didn't love the city, but it did enable me to save lots of money. I worked for a grounds and services company which actually sent me around the island a lot because on the South Island there aren't many cities and there isn't many companies, so if there's jobs that need doing further afield, like in other towns around New Zealand, you'll usually get sent from Christchurch or from Dunedin. And because my job was based in Christchurch and I was a labourer and it was one of the companies that kind of sent people away for work a lot, that means I had a few benefits in my job. I also got free food and free accommodation 5 days a week. So from Monday to Friday I was staying in a motel for free, all paid for by my company, and I also got breakfast, lunch and dinner all provided by my company. So that was a really good benefit of my job. And during my weekends I'd either sleep in my car to save money or I'd stay in a hostel, which is very cheap. So basically that was one of the main things that helped. I was paid $20 an hour and I worked usually about 50, 60 hours a week, and I did get all my expenses paid for during the week, which really helped. But this is not at all uncommon in New Zealand to get sent away for work, especially if you do have a labouring job in Christchurch or in Dunedin, especially Christchurch. I met so many other backpackers in my company and in other companies that were also sent away to work in various towns for a long time, and their food and accommodation was all provided. So that's one of the main keys as to why I made a lot of money, because I had low expenses and good hours and $20 an hour, which I think is quite good. In the weekends I still had fun, I'd still go on excursions and I'd still eat out in restaurants and I'd have fun, but because I only had to spend money on the weekends, I still was able to make good money and save good money. That was kind of the main thing. I also lived in Christchurch, which is a very cheap city to live in, so I would say live somewhere like that, where there's a lot of work in labouring, because then you're going to get paid good, and where it's cheap living expenses. It is a boring city, it's not super beautiful or spectacular like Queenstown or Wanaka, but living and working in Queenstown and Wanaka is expensive. You know, you can't rent very cheaply there, whereas in Christchurch there is good labouring work, which isn't like the best work in the world, but it does pay good and you get benefits like being sent away and all that kind of stuff. But before that I lived on the North Island and I did kiwi fruit picking and I worked on contract rates, and I actually made a good $1,300 a week after tax doing that as well. And that was just because I'd usually work 7 days a week as long as the weather permitted, and because I was on piece rate I usually worked on good teams. I would get myself on like the Indian guys team or on the fast backpacker team, and we would always compete against each other's teams, and usually we would go away with $250 a day quite easily. So I made good money in kiwi fruit too, just picking that, and I lived in my car to save money, and I ate just cheap beans and rice to save more money, and I probably saved about $6,000 alone in 3 months just doing kiwi fruit picking. Fruit picking in New Zealand isn't like Australia. In Australia I find the pay is very low for fruit picking, and contract piece rate is very bad, whereas in New Zealand the piece rate contracts are very high. So I would say they're better for fruit picking. So if you've been to Australia and you're kind of scarred from the fruit picking industry, I'd say that New Zealand's better. So that's pretty much how I saved money actually. This isn't a long video, that's pretty much what I did. I just worked a lot of hours and had a job with good benefits, and that's basically it. If you want to see a video on how to find work in New Zealand, I put it up here. And if you want to see other videos on how to get jobs when travelling, I'll link them up here and in the description, because I have made a lot of videos on how to find these kind of jobs. But basically, if you want a job, I just looked all over Gumtree and all over the internet and Facebook, and I just somehow found them and sent in a lot of applications and got the jobs, and it didn't take me that long. I just think put in some initiative, show that you're interested, and show that you want to work a lot of hours and that you're happy to commit to a long time, and it shouldn't be too difficult. But yeah, if you have any questions about how I did this, just leave a comment below. I'm sure I can give you some more information and stuff, but as a whole, yeah, that's pretty much what I did, and I don't think it was that difficult. I met many other backpackers working for my company and other companies similar who also saved lots of money in New Zealand. In fact, I had a couple of friends who probably saved about $30,000 each while living and working in New Zealand, and they did it very easily, just the same way I did. So if you are being scared by other people telling you that you can't save money in New Zealand, it's not true. You can, and yeah, I did. So yeah, and I still don't actually think $15,000 is, I mean, it's a lot, but I mean, I know people who have saved more, so I don't know, just giving you my experience and my story, and I hope that it maybe inspires you or makes you realise how you can also do this in New Zealand too. And yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. I'm sure I can give you some help. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to end this video here. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like, subscribe to see more videos about travelling around and getting jobs abroad and working online and all that kinds of stuff. And yeah, I make lots of content, hopefully giving people lots of advice and just sharing my journey. So if you want to follow along and see what happens, definitely hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.